Here, how are you? Hopefully you're having a great day. Well, we're getting ready to start the second part of the two-part session with working with realtors, and hopefully the first part gave you some information that you could use to start looking at your realtor relationships and how to, identify what it is that you're going to do and how to do it. The second part of this is going to put together some of the pieces so that we can take this even further, so that we can fully maximize the relationship and make it cohesive in a way that can generate you and them, many more opportunities. So sit back, relax, and take some notes and see how we can put these things together. Last week we had some homework, and hopefully by now you've been able to put together your plan and have it in writing for what you can do with your agent's buyers. And you should have gotten your plan for what you can do with your agent's listings. Again, all of these things should be in writing. All of these things should be printed out and put in plastic page protectors into your official book of business. Because without having these things done and without sharing them to show how the pieces come together, it just becomes a lot of talk. I want you to have a written plan on how to deal with buyers, how to deal with listings, how to target new agents, the fact that you're tracking the referrals from those agents, and then hopefully using the 2% solution, provide that agent with a powerful tool in recommending you, so that by getting in front of those agents or even their buyers, you can show them that you bring a lot to the table and can save them, an awful lot of money. So with that said, this is the implementation part is the big piece. We can talk theory all we want, but if you don't implement and if you don't do the work, really all this is a conversation. If you can have the best book of business built, if you don't share it with anybody, it doesn't do you any good. So the first thing I want to put out there is sitting and having yourself a conversation, because a lot of times, new people come to me and they say, well, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I don't know how, to get in front of somebody in a meaningful way other than saying, my name and here's my company and we've got great rates and great service and all that other stuff. So what I've prepared here is really the questions that you need to be asking. And you can do this live, or you could do this, create a letter, and you can send it to any one of your realtor targets. And it's pretty straightforward. Does your current lender or lending relationship have a written plan to help you secure a price break from your current listings? Again, we've talked about that in the 2% solution. In the 2% solution, by getting in front of that listing and getting them pre-approved for their next purchase so that they are fully aware of how much money that they can spend and how much money they actually need, that negotiation over $5,000 or $10,000 becomes very small when they realize that in the terms of the transaction, it's only a few dollars a month. And the other part to this is not facilitating that next purchase is costing them money every day, because they're locked into selling a home. They're not locked into appreciating a value of their new home. So does your current lender or lending relationship have a written plan to help you secure a price break from your current listings? It's a big point. The next question is, does your current lender or lending relationship have a written plan to help you replace a listing from a current listing, or to help you find a new listing if you don't have one? Again, we talk about this and say, wouldn't it be great if there was a method by which you and your realtor could engage and be involved so that you could answer this question in a positive light? Does your current lender or lending relationship have a written plan that helps you find buyers from your current listings so that you can take both sides of the commission? Realtors love double-sided transactions. Imagine if you could answer yes to that question. Again, number 4, Does your current lender or lending relationship have a written plan that helps you find buyers who would be willing to sign a buyer's agreement with you so you could negotiate their next home purchase? Well, that would be a pretty good deal. That would be something an agent would be interested in. And last but certainly not least, does your current lender or lending relationship have a written plan on how to incubate and bring back listings and buyers to you from your cast-off contacts? That's pretty powerful stuff. If you can answer yes to all of these questions, you'd be a really valued partner in that realtor's life. And what we're going to work with today is showing you how exactly you can do all these things. Now, we talked about the price break, and we've talked about that a little bit in the 2% solution. The other 4 pieces to this puzzle are going to come to light, and we're going to show you and share with you some tools and techniques that you can use so that you can be in a position so that you're answering yes to all of these questions. And again, it's not going to be hard to find realtors that are answering no to a majority, if not all, of these questions. In which case, if that's the case, you've got a tremendous opportunity. So let's talk about the first thing, and this is going to be the key to understanding the relationship and understanding where things come from and how it works. And so we talked this, it's called Help Us Pick Your New Neighbor. And I've called this particular thing, Help Us Pick Your New Neighbor, and it's derived from what realtors used to call the 10-10-20. Well, what's the 10-10-20? Well, the 10-10-20 used to be when realtors used to secure a listing, they were taught that before they ever came back to the office, they would have walked 10 houses to the left, 10 houses to the right, and the 20 houses across the street, knock on every door, talk to every neighbor, and ask them if they knew of anybody who had ever said that they'd be interested in living in that neighborhood, friend, relative, coworker, because they knew that the fastest way to double-side a transaction was to talk to people who would likely know somebody who would like to buy that home. Well, that is an old-fashioned realtor tool. I know this because my sister used to be a manager in a real estate office, and as we speak, today happens to be her birthday, so it's a special note that I get to say with great conviction. She knew more about real estate and taught more people about real estate, and those people made more money than most of the people that you're ever going to come across. And it was simple techniques like knowing that the neighbors in any given community are likely to know people who want to live in that community. Why? Because people tend to know people just like themselves. And if you like living in a neighborhood, chances are your friends, family members, and associates would like living in that neighborhood. You'd have a lot in common. And so they used to do this, and they called it the 10-10-20. What I've done is I've changed that a little bit, because what happened to the 10-10-20 was the just listed card. Services came out and said, instead of knocking on the doors and talking to the neighbors and telling them that that house is listed, we'll automatically go in there, we'll pick out the surrounding houses, and we'll send them this card that announces that you just listed the home. And while that's nice and it's a good thing to have done, the problem with that is the person who gets it doesn't necessarily know why it's important. What do I care if that person just listed a house? What does it mean to me? So what I do is I take that a step further and I try to get some inclusion. I want to include the neighbors in the journey of picking their new neighbor. Why? Because it gives them like they have an opportunity to influence the outcome. We've all lived in a neighborhood where we had that one miserable neighbor, that one person who absolutely drives you nuts. And if you live in a neighborhood where you don't have that person, then chances are maybe you are that person. But, that aside, imagine if you talked to the neighbors and said, hey, Rachel Realtor just listed 123 Main Street for sale. We'd like to have you help us pick your new neighbor. Now, Rachel's a fine realtor. She's going to sell that house, but we'd love your input. We'd like to have your help. If you have a friend, relative, associate, colleague who's ever mentioned they'd like to live here, we'd like to talk to them, because we'd like you to help us pick your new neighbor, because if you do, then you'll know who you're getting. If we do, you might not like who we pick. So with that said, understand inclusion as a very important and powerful tool when it comes to help us pick your new neighbor. Now, a slightly different spin or take on that would be the neighbors only open house. Slightly different spin, what we're going to do, and we found this works best on a Saturday or a Sunday, is to get out there in front of the neighbors, knock on the doors and talk to them, let them know that the house is for sale, and invite them to a special neighbors-only open house. Pick a day in the middle of the week. We found Wednesday works just great. Limit the time, say between 7 and 7:30, and invite them to come. They're going to be nosy neighbors anyway. They're going to be engaged anyhow. They're going to want to see what's going on, and they're going to want to participate. So understand that by you getting them, you do a few things. First of all, you get in front of people who are curious anyway. You may get them to come out and bring people to the open house that may be interested in buying the house and possibly securing a transaction for your realtor. You may also uncover the other motivation where they're there, because maybe they're thinking about selling their home, in which case you could help secure another listing for your agent. Or maybe they're interested in buying another home or seeing what they can do, and maybe they need to refinance. All sorts of opportunities. The best part is it also puts you in that home. It also gets you proximity to the person selling that house. And again, by getting in contact with the person selling that house, you have an opportunity to apply for the job of being their next loan officer. This is all about getting in front of opportunities, generating and maximizing opportunities. Another thing that you're going to have to do and be aware of is dealing with incubating buyers. And you need to have a plan to do that. There are some software programs out that I find to be very effective, and we can talk about them at a later date. If you want a quick note, you can look into a product called Path to Buy. That's P-A-T-H, the number 2, B-U-I. Please don't buy it. Just go to the website and look at it. If it's something you want to do, you need to talk to me first. I can get you a heck of a deal. But the point that I'm trying to make here is, even if whether you have software, whether your own company has a program to stay in touch with these people, or you just do a follow-up card system and breaking these people down into a number of different categories. In other words, you need to know, are these people buying in 60 days or less? That would be your hot property. That would be the person that you need to speak to frequently. Is somebody going to buy something in more than 60 days to a year? Well, you need to know that. Surviving a foreclosure or a short sale. You still want to be in touch with all of the, even people who are foreclosed or short sale. They're eventually going to be eligible to buy another home. And you can make that happen. If you're planning on being in the business in 2 or 3 or 4 years, it would be nice to have them come back when they're ready. So the point that I'm trying to make is you need to have a plan for each of the following groups. For the most part, it can be almost the same plan and just change the duration of the communication. In other words, you may have 10 contact points, either by phone, email, snail mail, personal contact. You may have 10 contact points. Well, if somebody's buying in 60 days or less, you probably want to take those 10 contacts and you want to shrink them down so that you're doing those 10 contacts every 2 to 3 days. One contact every 2 to 3 days would get you in 10 contacts within the 60-day time frame. That would get all of your message out there to the people. It would get all those touches in time for those people to make a decision. If someone's looking to buy further than 60 days but not quite a year, when you speak to them, you'll be able to narrow it down. How many days? Somewhere between 2 and 6 months, 6 months and 9 months. Same thing holds true. Same 10 contact points. Just spread them out. So if you're going to have, let's say, 6 months, well, then what happens is every 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to want to send out a contact piece, or you're going to want to make that phone call or send that email or get in front of them. So you can take the same 10 things, just spread them out. So I know, okay, this person is buying in 6 months. So I'm going to schedule the first piece today, and then 3 weeks from now I'm going to send the next one. And look at your calendar. Make sure it makes sense. You don't ever want to send a piece or make a contact in the middle of a holiday. So the point is look at your calendar, plug in these communications, write it into your schedule. Because if you don't, it's not going to happen. Now, people who are more than a year out, obviously you want to drip on them once every month or so. And when you get to that last piece, you want to follow up live and reassess the situation. In all of these cases, after your 10th piece of communication goes out, you want to get back in touch with these people and find out what's the new time frame, what's been going on. Foreclosure and short sale people, you might want to alter that a little bit. You might want to come up with your own contact points. Just reminding them to start saving money. Reminding them to reestablish credit. If they reestablish credit, make sure they don't abuse it. Make sure things are getting paid off. If they went into foreclosure or short sale and they didn't go into a bankruptcy and they've got existing credit, manage it wisely. Pay your bills on time. Don't exceed 40 or 50% of the credit line in use, all to maximize your credit scores. Those are things you need to know how to do and should be pieces that you can communicate with them, come up with, again, even if it's 10 pieces. Even if it's the same regular piece once a month that says, you've made it another month. Make sure, have you paid your bills on time? Have you saved some money? You're now another month closer to being able to buy your home. Could be the same piece every month if necessary. But build in a few places where you call and you touch base, even if it's once every 6 months to a year. Make sure you build in a contact point to talk to these people, or at least leave a message to let them know that you still care. Because that becomes critical. Incubation. We have to do it because other people won't. Renters, renters, renters. If you don't have a plan for finding and converting renters, then you don't have a plan at all. If you're working with realtors and you and your realtor don't have at least some plan to find rental property addresses and communicate with them on an ongoing basis so that when the time is right, or even on a consistent basis, that you're marketing to these people, because renters become homeowners. Apartment buildings are a never-ending source of opportunity. Those renters are in there albeit for a short period of time. Each market is slightly different. But traditionally, in most parts of the country, people don't move into apartment buildings and stay there forever. Unless you're in a big city, most people want to own where they live. And so apartment buildings and those rental things are temporary. And if they are permanent, those are people that are never going to own anything anyway. But first what you have to do is look at your market and make the determination, what's going on with your rental market? Are rents rising in my area? Are rents falling in my area? Is the market relatively stable? Have I done a price comparison? Have I figured out if I'm renting a two-bedroom, one-bath apartment and I'm paying $850 a month rent, what does that translate into in my area? Are there homes that I could buy for $100,000, $125,000 that would be two bedrooms and one bath, or maybe better, that we could afford to buy after taxes and insurance and bring that number home for the same or maybe even less money after taxes than what that rental unit's going for? If I can find those places, if I can find those people, if we can communicate with them on an ongoing basis, when the time comes for them to make the move, you could very well get the call. And again, put yourself in a position to be able to handle that referral back to one of your agents. Again, I have people who market rental properties all the time. They constantly update their records to find houses in the reasonably close proximity to those apartments that people could own for the same or less money every month. And then they put the pictures side by side. And they ask the question, why rent this with a copy of the apartment building when you can own this picture of the house that they could buy? Let me show you how. It doesn't have to work a lot to be very powerful. But you have to have a plan. Now, we've talked in the past recently, and if you've been to the website and you're watching the blog, then you know we're talking a lot about inventory starting to become a challenge. Inventory of listings are down. And I've spent a great deal of time talking to realtors and mortgage professionals about ways of generating additional inventory. So if you're looking at those renters and you're generating those first-time buyers, a complimentary plan today, hadn't been for the last couple of years, but today if inventories are shrinking in your area, you need to have a plan to help find those first-time home sellers get out of their house so that we have a place for the new first-time home buyers to go. And how cool would that be? You could get your agent in front of 2 or 3 transactions at that point. So the fact here is renters are important. Having a plan to identify and market to those people are important. It's an ongoing process. It doesn't happen overnight. But over the long haul, you can harvest these renters month in and month out forever. Expired listings. You know, most realtors don't even think about expired listings. They haven't over the last few years because there was just a glut of inventory. There weren't a lot of buyers. But now with the sellers becoming more and more control of the market, expired listings now have a greater appeal. Well, what's the plan? Again, so the first thing you can do is you can speak to your realtor about expired listings and ask them, are you engaged in trying to pick up expired listings? Every MLS in the country can give you a list of all the expireds, what the properties are, when they expired. Everybody knows when they are. We know the important months, January and July, because that's when the most expired listings happen. Why? Because, quite frankly, first of the year, and people say, okay, this year I'm going to sell the house. Let me call the realtor. Let's get this house on the market because this is the year we're going to move. But why is July such a big deal? Well, guess what? It's a big deal because most listings are generally listing agreements for 6 months. If they listed in January, then they're going to expire in July. The flip side to that is those listings that expire in July and later, if those people as they expire are going to relist with an agent, whether it be the one that they signed in the first place or the new one, they tend to be less specific, and then they put a target up till the end of the year, which means the single biggest day for listings to expire is December 31st. Why? Because people who list in July, August, and September will often tell the realtor, I'll give you to the end of the year. If you can sell the house, fine. And if you can't, we'll move on. But you need to know this. You need to have a plan for this. You need to have a discussion, not in January and July what we're going to do about expired listings. You need to put a note on your calendar. And that note on the calendar says, hey, right after Thanksgiving, I'm going to talk to my agent about the expired listings coming in January. And you've got to look in June that says, beginning of June, I got to start talking to my realtor about the expired listings that are going to be coming in July. Talking about it once they've expired doesn't do us any good. You want to be first, because we all know 60% of all people will do business with the person that appears to be skilled and competent in their area need if they speak to them first. So if we get there first, we have a competitive advantage. So with expired listings, the questions always remain, does the seller still need or want to sell? They had a motivation to sell the house. Why didn't they? 9 times out of 10, it's going to be because the price wasn't where it needed to be in order to sell it. They would only sell their house if we got to this price. Well, guess what? If that's the only motivating factor, it's almost like catching a falling knife. It's difficult and can be painful because ultimately, depending on where they're priced out of the market, the longer the house sits overpriced, statistically shows the less they're going to get for that home. So the key is, does the seller really need or want to move? Because again, it's different. Some people want to sell a house at a certain price because they're not living there. But some people actually need to move. And so what you have to do is, what is your plan? These are the questions. Do we have an answer? Are we scheduling these tasks? If expired listings, if you're going to work with realtors, expired listings needs to be a piece of the puzzle. You need to schedule the work so that in November, after Thanksgiving, you're having the conversation. In June, you're having the conversation. If your agents are interested, you can start up the plan. And if they're not interested, you can work with people who are. Not everybody's going to work expired listings. For sale by owners. One of my favorite places. Used to love playing with FSBOs. In fact, one of the first things that I did that got any kind of recognition from the mortgage community was working with for sale by owners. Of course, depending on your marketplace, this may or may not be a big opportunity. Before you get involved trying to market to for sale by owners, you should sit with your realtors and look at the numbers. How many for sale by owner opportunities are there in your marketplace? And sometimes it's a much bigger piece of the business than anybody allows for, and in other cases it's almost non-existent. But statistically speaking, One-time FSBOs are more likely going to end up hiring a realtor to list and sell their property. Most people who for sale by owner don't end up selling their own house. Now, they don't want to hear that, and that's why it's important the mortgage person gets in front of them, because most for sale by owners are in a position to welcome a financial professional around to help them out. Imagine if you went to that for sale by owner and you offered to pre-approve any of the people either before they even came to see the house. Think about that. You advertise your house for sale. You tell them where you live. They got a really good idea of what your house is worth. You don't know anything about these people. Imagine you said, I'd love to share with you my house. Please send me your email and let me have your pre-approval letter. If you're not pre-approved by, I'm going to have to verify your pre-approval letter. And then I'm going to have, and if you don't have a pre-approval letter, then here's somebody that you can call. I want you to talk to them. Because without them speaking to you and telling me that you're ready, willing, and able to buy my house, there's no reason for you to come look at it. And what does that do? Well, it makes sure that you have at least some credible information on that person. If it turns out to be a bad or threatening experience for some reason or another, at least you've got a pre-approval letter from somebody that has, at least at the very minimum, run their credit. So you know their name, their address, and their social security number. It's a form of protection. It's a form of verification. It's a form of security. You can do things like do home finance guides for them and all those other things that we would do for those homeowners that our agents and working with their listings do. You can get great business from for sale by owner opportunities. They can help you generate listings. They can help you find buyer side deals for your agents, because those FSBOs are going to move and buy something else. And why wouldn't you want your agent to get in front of that opportunity? You have to build the presentation. You know, we talk about getting this stuff in writing. You know, we talk about putting it in your book of business. Now understand, I've said this all along, if it's not in writing, it does not exist. Documentation beats conversation every time. Okay, please understand that these presentations are critically important. Now I know some people will use email. I don't have a problem with using email if you're using email in conjunction with, say, a video or some sort of downloadable documentation. Because as I've told you before, and I'll tell you again, email is a support tool to follow up with a live conversation. It's not a means to generate any real business. It's a supportive tool. The day you allow your function to become internet bound, solvable by a computer or a printout, is the day you're no longer important to the transaction. They're going to realize if that's all you're bringing to the table is email-generated information, then they don't need you. They can go to one of those email companies, internet companies, that many times can charge less money than you because they're not paying for a live person to handle their transactions. They're not paying that person to develop relationships. That internet lead is gone. Don't put yourself in that position. You have to create the value. So you can support yourself by sending a video, calling to confirm, hey, did you get it? You can send a letter. You can send an email to confirm that they got it. You can do a live presentation, a live conversation, and then send an email to support. But please do not think that mass emailing the market is a dependable long-term solution to your business. because we have to stop thinking of ourselves as selling mortgages. The reality of it is you're a solutions provider. People want to sell their property. People want to buy property. People want to get rid of their rental and buy a house. It's a challenge. In today's market, we all know it's a challenge. Stop having the conversation about rates and points and closing costs and all that nonsense. It's the same. If that's the only thing that you have, then you are a salesperson. And the problem is you can't get paid a lot for that. You need to be a solutions provider. You need to know how to put these transactions together and how to guide people through the process so that they close on time at the price that they had agreed upon, so that everything that was supposed to happen did happen. You want people to have a hassle-free transaction, and that means knowing how you get from point A to point B. So when I share with you building these presentations, it's incredible to me that people walk out the door and then trust everything to an email or to a verbal without documenting what it is that they're doing and sharing the entire plan. So please, build your presentations. Now, building your team. Understand that not everybody is an all-star, okay? We've got to go through the ABCs of this, and I've talked about this in the past. And understand that, and think of it as a baseball team, all right? If you have a baseball team, you have to field 9 players. You need some bench players, and you need a bullpen of backup people. You also need a minor league system, because you're not going to put an all-star at every position. Somebody's got to play left field. And if your left fielder isn't an all-star, he may just be average. He may be below average. Heck, he may even be a minor leaguer. But one way or another, when you go to play the game, somebody's going to be playing that field. So what you have to do here is, what does your team look like? Well, when it comes to realtors, you need 5 or 6 people, the best targets, the ones that you're going to be with twice a week. You're going to either be visiting them or calling them twice a week, once on Monday and once on Thursday. Why? Because you want to collect their news. Those are the people that have bought into your system and are willing to give you everything that you've asked for. Buyers to incubate, listings to talk to, people to target. Your B group, we're looking for 10 or 12 targets. And you're going to speak with them either on Monday or Thursday, half on Monday, half on Thursday. Here, we're going to have a C group, 20 or so targets, people that occasionally send you business or people that you're targeting to bring you business. And you're going to take that group and you're going to divide it into 4 pieces, and you're going to be seeing or talking to those people every other week. Because what does that mean? It means it puts you in a rotation. You can divide up your people. You can create a route, so to speak, so that you're out there visiting these people and having these conversations. You've got to be out there talking to people and asking for business, because if you're not, then you're just sitting in, waiting by the phone, hoping something's going to show up. And you're not going to trip over any accidental business that way. Now understand, people can fall from the A group into the B group. People can move from the C group up to the A group. You have all sorts of freedom to be able to do that. They can move from group to group. But the fact of the matter is, you need to be having these conversations. You need to be visible. You need to be consistent. Now, one of the things that we do as far as identifying people is contacting the other side of the transaction. You need to call the listing agent and identify yourself and ask them for help in being certain that the appraisal appointment is set. See, we don't control appraisals anymore. We're not allowed to speak to the appraiser. Some of you may be in a position where you run into appraisal issues, with appraisals maybe not coming in at the numbers. this is a perfect opportunity to get in front of that listing agent who you may or may not know, identify yourself, and engage them into the process. Why? Because suppose your company orders the appraisal, and 3 or 4 days goes by and nobody contacts that listing agent to set the appointment. How are you going to know that? So by getting involved and getting engaged early in this process, you can tell them, hey, I've just ordered the appraisal. If you don't hear from somebody within 48 hours who's going to set that appointment, please call me back and let me know, and we can track it down. I don't want this going a week. I don't want the closing delayed because we didn't get an appraisal done. The other thing you're going to want to do is ask them to gather all the comparables that they use to establish the asking price in advance of the appraisal. Because it's easier to influence the appraiser as to what your thinking was when you established this price before they come up with a number than it is after they come up with a number. Make certain that your contact information is available on those comparables so that that appraiser can contact that realtor. Again, remember, and make sure that they have your contact information. So if they run into a problem, if the appraiser is a no-show, if there is an issue, that they can find you. Certainly I want you to attend the closing if you can, especially if there are going to be people there that you have never met. Handing them your card, shaking their hand, huge impact. When you get back to the office, sending them a note, thanking them for such a great transaction, and letting them know that you look forward to doing business with them again in the future, get that card out the day of the closing. And then follow up with that card a week later. Hey, did you get the card? I'd love to sit down for a cup of coffee and talk about how we can do business again together. I really enjoyed it. And just understand that 100% of the truth 100% of the time really needs to be your reality. Because if it's not, somewhere along the line you're going to get caught in a lie, and we all know that that never works out. Targeting the good ones. You got to look at the numbers. You got to look and track. Each MLS has a different way of tracking their realtors. There are a number of different tools you can use. If you don't have access to your own real estate numbers, there are private systems that you can use to track a realtor's numbers and know exactly how much business they're doing. You can certainly look on places like Realtor.com and see how many listings they have. Find out what types of business that they're doing. One of the key areas is most of your current agents who are referring you, they'll be happy to refer you to other people that they know that you don't. Who better to judge somebody you'd like to work with than somebody you're already working with? Also, your title company can be your friend. You know, your title company, they're involved in a lot of things. And they often sit and present when a closing doesn't go so well. When people are upset. Well, that's a heck of an opportunity. If they're ever part of a closing that blows up, and we know the agents that are involved, that would be a great time to get in front of those people saying, hey, I'd like an opportunity to speak with you about possibly doing business together. Clearly, you don't tell them that the title company agent gave you their name and number, they just had a deal blow up with ABC Bank, because that's not what you're going to do, and probably the last time you ever got any information from that title company. But the point is, you have to have different ideas, concepts. You always have to be asking. And last but not least, what's in your database? The people in your database, if you're not asking them if they've had a really good experience with a realtor, and you're not getting those referrals, you're going to be in big trouble. If you're not letting them know, if those people don't let you know who the realtors they think are great, you're going to be in trouble. The easiest way to get in front of a realtor is to get referred to them by one of your clients. Have them help you. RESPA. More and more you have to be paying attention to the challenges with RESPA. We're not going to go through it, like crazy, but I just want to let you know, I'm going to give you some highlights. You can't pay for it all. If you're doing something in conjunction with a realtor, you can't pay for it all. Whatever you're doing must mutually benefit the two of you equally. If you're going to do something for free, you have to invite everyone or no one. In other words, you can't offer something to people who refer you that you're not offering to the rest of the world. And last but not least, take away the three-card myth. People are free to refer anybody they'd like to. There's no such law. When you have a realtor tell you that I have to follow the three-card law, tell them no such law exists. I understand that it's company policy for some companies, but as I tell my realtors, you wouldn't want me handing somebody 3 cards of 3 realtors. If I think you're the best realtor for the job, I'm going to hand them your card and tell them that they need to speak to you. I appreciate being in your group, but if I don't have 100% of your trust, then I need to know what I need to do to deserve that. Because mortgage people aren't about personalities. It's about factual details and how they get their stuff done. Either I can do the job or I can't. So the reality of it is know what it is that you're doing. Be aware of RESPA. Be careful of what you're doing because you don't want to be in a spot where somebody jumps up because and files a complaint. Because even if it's unsubstantiated, you still got to deal with defending it. Then it's not worth it. We're not going to run the poll, but I want to share a piece of information that very few people know. Okay? And this is just one of those things that I want to put out there in front of you. What are a realtor's obligations to document when it comes to sharing loan rate information? In other words, if a realtor provides a rate sheet or discusses interest rates or prices or programs, can they share whatever they want without a problem? Must they keep a record for 24 months of what they said and who they said it to? Must they keep rate information? And is it fine to share that rate information as long as it comes from a licensed source? Or as, some realtors would sit there and say, what's the rate? They don't share any information whatsoever. They don't engage at all. So if a realtor, do they have an obligation to do anything if indeed they're sharing information about interest rates, products, and programs? And you will be amazed that, believe it or not, by law, the Mortgage Acts and Practices, MAP, prohibits misrepresentations about mortgage products to consumers and imposes record-keeping requirements on anyone who provides information about mortgage products to consumers. People, according to MAP, there is a law, they must keep, if they so much as talk about a product or a program, they must document that and they must keep it for 24 months. Some of you are sitting there absolutely scratching your head saying, gee, I never knew that. Yep, believe it or not, there are some states that have taken this information to the extreme. I remember speaking about this in Missouri. And the state real estate community notified all their people about this because they didn't want anybody getting into trouble. This is an actual piece of legislation. If you want to go to Mortgage Acts and Practices, you can go to HUD.gov and you can look them up and you can print out the whole thing. Many real estate boards have this in their records. The National Association of Realtors absolutely does. Different state agencies often do. So when that realtor starts talking about rates and programs, the fastest way to get them to stop saying, anytime you bring up a rate or a program about a loan, you have to write that information down. You have to keep it for 24 months. They may not believe you. Pop this at them because it's the truth. Conclusions. Working with realtors can be fun, can be frustrating. It's really true. You really need to have your plan in writing. You need to schedule the time and track the results so that you can make the adjustments in what you're doing. We've talked about realtors in a lot of different ways, and I understand about 80 or 90% of them can drive you crazy, but they still account for about a third of all the purchase referrals that are out there. And a very small portion, 5 or 10%, probably control a majority of the business in your market. You don't need everybody to be in front of these people and to be highly successful having a realtor relationship. If you read my blog posts, if you read the white papers, if you listen to the CDs, we talk about this a great deal. This is a great relationship if you work it. You can see endless business. You can get to any level that you want to make if you learn how to do this and you learn how to build these relationships. Because at the end of the day, it's really pretty simple. You guys are in this together. Most of the people a realtor comes across are going to need a mortgage to buy the house. And most of the people a mortgage professional is going to come across are going to use a realtor to buy one. Just the way it is. So learn the way you want to do business. Have it written down. Let's work on the adjustments together so that you can excel in this very important area. Homework. Please complete any of the unfinished work from the last session. It's really important because we had 2 sessions on this. There's a lot of stuff to go. I know it was a lot of work. I know it's a lot of writing. It's a lot of detail. It's a lot of thought. What you're going to do. You're not going to use everything. Go back to the CDs and listen to them. Take your notes. Terry Murphy and I spent a lot of time on that information. Go back and look at the Forever Home strategy, the first-time home seller strategy. Read the blog posts. Read the white papers. Know what you want to do and how you want to do it. The information is very important. Put your processes together and get it scheduled in your day. I don't care whether it's Monday and Thursday. I don't care if it's Tuesday and Friday. I don't care if it's only one day a week on Wednesday. The end of the day is you must have whatever your schedule is going to be because you need to track the leads. You need to identify the people that you're expecting to get business from. You need to track the activities that you're using to generate that business. And you got to track the closure rates that you're getting from those people. Because if you have an expectation, you need quantification. Just saying that this person is going to send me 5 deals a year doesn't work. You have to quantify the result. And you can't wait till the end of the year because you're not going to get 5 deals on December 30th. So the point is you should track it. You should track it, let's just say, quarterly. I prefer monthly, but heck, quarterly will be a start. And most importantly, get out and get engaged. If you're not out talking to enough people, you're never going to have enough business. It's a very simple connection. You don't have enough business because you don't speak to enough people. Because if you were speaking to enough people, you'd have more than enough business. And remember, if you need help, just ask for it. I am here. We are here. We want to be able to help you. I want this to work for you, but I can't do it for you. You have the CDs. You have all the information. All these sessions are recorded. Everything that you need to do is all spelled out. And if there's any guesswork, if you're not sure at all, just let us know and we'll get you through it. So thanks for your time. Good luck, and we'll speak to you soon.